Welcome to Cosmic Comics, Games and Collectibles, your zen of geekism. We carry comics old and new, magazines, toys, games like Pokemon, Magic, D&D. Want Godzilla, Ultraman, Star Trek, Ninja Turtles, Funko Pops? You'll find it all here. Shop our Cosmic Sound Room and pick up a record or two. Enjoy our Comic Coffee Lounge with a cup of Sasquatch coffee while geeking out over a super cool movie on our big screen. Cosmic Comic, Games and Collectibles. Superman loves us, and so will you.
Hi everyone, Jason Hunt here, inviting you to join us every Saturday morning for news, the week's headlines in science fiction, fantasy, horror, comic books, video games, plus Comic-Con updates and the weather, and the occasional interview along the way. We call it Good Morning Multiverse. We hope you join us every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 Central, right here on Sci-Fi for Me TV.
And good evening. That is what happens, ladies and gentlemen, when you don't pay attention to your channel and you don't prepare in advance. You end up using old video introductions. This one saying, of course, that Kursova Magazine was going to be our guest tonight. I could probably send Alex the link and make that be true. I'd be happy to do that. But this is just a case, where my StreamYard's gotten kind of clunky. Didn't get around to making the new intro. And I need to just get in there and, prune and clean and straighten things up in my StreamYard. Fortunately, your old Uncle RJ has the next 9 days off of work. I can't even dial in if I wanted to. They will not allow me. It's a beautiful policy where they enforce you to take some vacation time and not think about the job. Once a year, 9 days off. I love it. So maybe I'll take, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'll put it off till Friday. Get in there and take care of some of the videos on this, and we'll continue streaming during that time, of course. If you've got something that you want to talk about, and I hope you were able to hear me. My microphone was still off to the side. But if you got something you want to talk about, project you want to promote, reach out to me. I've got nothing but time. We'd be happy to do it. This is the LCS show, and this is where we talk with, ostensibly retailers, but it's really just one. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, Mr. Michael Tierney.
Hi, good to be here.
Always good to have you here, Mike. People enjoy your take on things and your experience, and let's just put the funny papers around us here and be part of the comics culture. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
You know what? Not bad, not bad. It was a long day where they're like, don't give him something to do because he's going to forget what it is when he comes back on the Monday. He comes back, so I'm like, I was watching dry erase markers dry. That was my last 2 hours of the day. I'm like, I can't start anything. I know we just went through some requirements, specifications on a project, and they're like, yeah, but you ain't gonna be doing any of this for a while. Sorry, y'all told me to do it.
Yeah, every job I ever had, they always paid me not to take my vacations.
You know, I can take the money. You can sell the vacation hours.
Okay.
But, and I frequently do that, but you can only do it once a year, and you can only sell so many hours because you have to have these reserve hours still here so that you can take this.
Yeah. When I was working in printing, I was like their top manufacturer. Then when I was working in management, well, let's put it this way. When I left, because they didn't want to give me a good raise, they gave me one of those things where they gave me a great review and a terrible raise, and I just gave my notice. Took 3.5 people to replace me. So, and the whole time I worked there, I never took a single vacation because, I think I did take one vacation, and it was such a disaster when I got back. It took almost a year to get everything straightened back out.
See, that's their fault though for not cross training. When you have somebody at work who's a hero, that's not a good thing. That's a bad thing for the company.
I was carrying everything. I was the only guy who had a key that could lock every door in all 5 divisions. Even the president of the corporation didn't have one of those.
Oh wow, yeah. When I worked at the Air Force Base in my younger days as a contractor, there was one programmer who was key and critical to everything. So much so that when he got sciatica, he had surgery on his. He could not move. He had to lay down. He was like, nobody can drive him. He could not come to work. They brought in a cot and they cut the legs off the desk so that he could lay on the cot and just code in that position.
Wow.
Because they could not do without him. So they made it happen.
When I was doing my Edgar Rice Burroughs art chronology, I came across a great story. There was a guy, and it's one of the least liked paintings. Tarzan, not Tarzan, it's a Martian story, Fighting Man on Mars. And the guy did a great design, double wraparound spread of, Martians fighting, Martian ships approaching, but it just didn't work. But reading about it, though, and I found out the guy was sick as a dog when he was painting that. Matter of fact, he was so sick, and this is a one-legged man. He lost a leg in World War II. And so he actually went in to finish that painting, and he got his easel, turned it upside down where he could lie on the floor and paint above him. So he could keep on working. Because that's the way that work ethic used to be. Hey, it doesn't matter if you're dying, just crawl on into work and keep it going. Well, then along comes the secretary, opens the door, sees that one leg sticking out underneath the easel, thinks he just died on the job. And she screamed so loud, it literally cracked the glass of his door.
Oh boy. She hit that high C note.
Yeah, and she just cracked. It was a great story, not that great a picture, great design, but just didn't work.
If it doesn't match the story, then it can
look
story, beautiful.
The technique, it just, we're used to things like J. Allen St. John, Frank Frazetta, things like that. When you go back and look at this one, it just, I don't know. I had a good layout, but it just no energy.
I hear you. I actually bought a couple of comic books this week, and they're okay. They're okay. 2 of them were Batman comics because I've heard, hey, new writer on Batman, Chip Zdarsky. It's good again, and it was okay again. It was, they're bringing back that whole Grant Morrison Batman of Zur-En-Arrh thing that they did.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how, and when I say the Batman, I'm talking like just plain vanilla Batman, no Gotham Knight, no detective, no anything. It's just the Batman arc.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the top selling book that DC has?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
But Flash is right there with it.
Okay.
It used to be the top selling, but it's really it's like half of what it was just a few years ago.
Well, I remember it used to be, 100,000, and then it dropped down to 80,000. It kind of held off there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's still selling at the 80,000 or if it's jumped back up.
I haven't looked at their numbers. I just know what I'm selling in my for myself there, and like I say, it's dropped over the years pretty badly. But it dropped ever since the whole Catwoman fiasco. It's stabilized now, but they lost half their readers with when Catwoman stood him up at the altar in number 50. I guess she saw the Batawang in that controversial comic. She's like, yeah, good, I gotta go.
Yep, I can do better.
She can't do without his shortcomings.
Well, we always knew that Bruce Wayne swung hard right, but I did I say that? That's dessert. That's
There you go.
I got to be quicker on these sound things, but they're so far down. I've got to scroll a mile to get to them. They actually addressed that in the last Batman issue, or the one before, one of the two. Yeah, they addressed it this way. Bruce says to himself, I couldn't marry Catwoman. I'm like, yeah, because she didn't show up. You don't tell yourself that.
Yeah, it was on me. Yeah, sure.
It was.
You're standing there getting around. Yeah. Oh, that must be.
Yeah, it was like a Pee Wee Herman's. Like, I meant to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Pee Wee Herman's Batman. Yeah. Yeah. I got a controversial topic. I was having a conversation today with a customer who's been wanting to buy a Superman #1. He been looking for one a long time, and he had. Hey, there's Chrisova.
There's Alex.
Hey, what's up?
We're just talking comics.
Yeah,
this week.
And, the ups and downs of Batman.
Yeah,
showing right on where we left off.
But somebody's trying to buy it, like not the John Byrne Superman one, but
I have a customer who's been wanting to buy a Superman #1. He's got like all the Superman except for like 1, 2, and 3, and and he's been wanting to complete it for a long time, and but he actually was looking at a copy. I was asking him, hey, did you buy that thing? And it was a pretty beat up copy, but the guy wanted 100,000. He said he offered him 70. Well, he thinks he made the guy mad, so the guy sold it to another guy for like 72,000. Well, then I asked him the question that a lot of people don't realize, and this is going to have everybody listening to the show running to look at their personal collections. We all wish to check, hey, on their Superman #1 copy, is it a first, second, third, or maybe even a fourth printing? Do you even realize it had multiple printings?
I did not. I thought they printed and then they returned.
Right, and that's what most people thought. It was such a hit. They kept going back and back to the press, like 3, maybe 4 times. People know about at least 3 of them. And used to, and the price guide doesn't show this. The price guide, people always thought that there were just the one printing, and you could not tell the difference. Obviously, there's not a guy going, hey, I'm going to look at my stack of half a dozen of these and kind of compare them to and see if I can find a variance. But there is a variance on the advertisement in there about the upcoming Action #14. So if it says, coming, let's see. Yeah, because they print about 900,000 altogether. And so if it says Action #14 on sale June 14th, you got the first printing. If it says on sale now, you got the second printing. And then, as it changed again, even after that. So, and every CGC copy out there, they've got slab where you can't look at your copy without breaking that super expensive grading that you had done. They don't tell you that. They ignore this.
Well, nobody else can look at it either, so you can tell them what you want.
Yeah, but think of all these guys who are selling these things like, hey, you didn't sell me a first printing. I want my $1 million back. I want to go get the first printing. No, we won't give you refunds.
Well, if the price guide's not making a differentiation, isn't it still the same? I mean, or are they now?
Well, no. There was an advisor by the name of Bob Beerbaum, and he wrote an article about this about 4 or 5 years ago, and it's just been largely ignored. I mean, this is a big money book, and there's a big issue on it that everybody's like, we don't talk about Bruno. Got to do a joke on a Disney movie.
Hey, Wayne Klingman, our Mr. Big mob advisor out there. Yes, it's Party City in here today. I got my hat. I've been wearing this a lot more because I don't have to comb my hair for the show now. But Alex, how things going with Kosovo Magazine since we last talked? Two whole weeks. I know a lot can happen.
Yeah, a lot can happen. KDP decided to block our winter issue, and we're trying to work that out. Some desk jockey in India saw that like the name was too similar to other titles, and they're like, for a proper buying experience, let me see if I can pull up the actual text of what they said here. It's
So was it
pretty
the title of the
asinine.
magazine?
Yeah, they're like, during our review, we found that the following books may cause a misleading customer experience because of the title and or authors listed in the books details closely matches another known work and or author. Similarity between your work and the other work / author could impair a customer's ability to make good buying decisions. And of course, they list the name of the issue and all the authors that we have tagged in the metadata, and a laundry list of vague things which may or may not be wrong with it, and a laundry list of vague things which may or may not be ways that we can address it. And we said, hey, look, we're a periodical. The title and authors are listed correctly. We have 25 previous issues that we've published through, and this has never been a problem before. And they replied and said, after reviewing your response, we have rejected your appeal, and reply again if you think that we got this wrong. So
They got it wrong.
yeah, and so I gave them the details. Like, look, this is the 13th issue of our second volume. This occurred probably because we didn't include the EPUB file prior to hitting submit. Because you can set up the ebook thing for pre-order without having to file if you're doing it far enough in advance. This is the first time we've done it without including the file, and of course that's what the time that we get flagged. So
you may be banging up against yourself.
Yeah, I have no idea. They're probably saying that because our lengthy title is too identical to the lengthy title of our periodical, sans the issue number, year, and season, that we are too similar to another title. But because KDP is notorious for how vague they are in their communications with support, we have no idea. So basically, I'm just going to have to keep beating my head against the wall till it gets escalated to someone who is maybe a U.S. citizen.
Probably what that's your issue sounds too much like a previous one of your own issues. Oh, these two are very similar and don't even bother to pay attention. Hey, they're both from the same guy, and he's got serials. He's got returning writers, and that's why volume 13 sounds like volume 11.
Well, especially if you uploaded volume 13 with nothing, and then you uploaded it again with something. Now you got two volume 13s that are.
Yeah, and of course the last 3 issues that are out have installments of the new Wild Stars, and the last 2 issues that are out have installments of Ran the Chaos Warped. And this issue that we've uploaded has another installment of Wild Stars and another installment of Ran the Chaos Warped.
Yeah. So they're probably saying you're too similar to your other one because you have these serials going on. So yeah.
And so I'm hoping that it doesn't come to having to get written statements from all of the contributors, because even the way that we handle our contract works perfectly fine from a legal standpoint, because we have digital records of all the correspondence and the transfers of payment, but that's not good enough for Amazon if it comes to it.
Wow. So, well, if you need a written statement, I'd be happy to write one up.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that it doesn't come to that, because it's been a nightmare. And the thing is like we've been so close on the verge of being able to say we're finally successful on Amazon. We're headed toward this is definitely going to be at least our 4th over $500 month through Amazon. It could be our 2nd $700 month in a row, which that'd be fantastic for us. That means we're moving about 150 units a month. So that's been pretty big for us. So
that'd be big for anybody.
It's not the roadblock I want to have hit me right now.
No, it's publishing, especially the on-demand stuff like KDP, is challenging. We got this in the mail a week and a half ago. This is the hardcovers that we crowdfunded for The Devil You Know. And as you can see, we put a dust jacket on it. So it's a wraparound dust jacket. It looks a lot nicer on the back of this than it does on the paperback, which is just plain black.
Could you print through?
Through Ingram Spark.
Uh-huh.
But here's the thing. I ordered a box of 10 and a box of 15 because it was cheaper than ordering a box of 25. Because they take away the lower shipping rate when you have a bigger box. And suddenly it was like $90 to ship. I'm like, no, it's only $30 to ship this one, $30 to ship that one. Send me 2 of those.
Yeah, no kidding.
So I went that way. And it was like, well, it's slower. And, we don't guarantee tracking. I'm like, that's okay. UPS guarantees tracking.
I lost way too many books through them and had way too many damages to not use tracking.
Oh, yeah. Well,
yeah, because when I did Illustrated Stark, we sent all the contributor copies to our artists in Portugal, and like they were moving, but it was going to be several months. But when you're sending a whole bunch of books, it was the difference between like sending it for $50 and $200, but they still ended up losing like almost $200 worth of books with no tracking, and they just washed their hands of it. And there's nothing I could do.
Well, here's the thing. I ordered the 25 total, and I got 9 of these. I got 16 of these.
Typical Ingram.
Yeah.
It's like they were mixed. I was like, how can you be stacking this book for the same order and not know that, hey, these don't have the covers on them?
The modern workforce.
Typical Ingram. And don't complain about it too much either. They'll delete your account.
Well, I found phone numbers, which apparently is a holy grail for people working with Ingram. And the first one, you got through to the operator. You got through to her voicemail. You listened to the voicemail message, and it said, the voicemail box you have reached is full, and is not taking any messages.
Well, if you ever get a hold of Lynn, tell her that Kursova said hi.
Okay. Well, I got a hold of one that did take a message in another plant, and I waited and I waited and I waited, and nothing happened. I'm like, okay, well, I know you monitor your Facebook, and I know you monitor your Twitter, so I took pictures and I put them out on Twitter, and within 2 hours, they were calling me, and to their credit, they did make it right. I have what they did was they shipped me. Okay, they shipped me
flat with the dust jackets unfolded, didn't they?
Yes, they did. But and even then, Alex, it's like they were the unfolded dust jackets. I've got to figure out how to put them on. I've done one. I'm like, oh, this is something I really want to take my time with.
Wrap the spine around first, and then do the flaps.
Yeah, that's what I do. But it's like I'm doing it by hand. I don't want to mess it up. But here's the thing: they shipped them flat between 2 heavy pieces of cardboard, taped on the ends, that were larger, much than the
Did the same thing on Cosmic Courtship.
So we had about 20 of the dust jackets on Cosmic Courtship that were mangled, and we had to get them replaced. And
well, I told him when he sent them, I'm like, you're going to need to send extras because you're going to get them damaged. And he's like, we'll ship you some extras. And yep, there were bent corners in that thing. And then to ship that, they just took like a banana box, and they just unfolded it to where it collapsed on itself and just fit it in there and just taped the edges. It was and
they wouldn't have had to be raising their unit prices on everybody if they didn't have 20-30% damages on everything they sent out.
Yeah, and they're getting ready to try to do comics, and they're not shipping
it's going to be a
comics.
disaster. I've been telling everybody, use Kablam. I trust Kablam. A bunch of our friends have used Kablam. Their stuff is fantastic. We have had nothing but terrible experiences, top to bottom, using Ingram.
Like Diamond Olive Branch Distribution Center. God.
Yeah.
Every week I had 15 to 25% damages. I don't know if they were targeting my account in particular, or it's just mass incompetence. I mean, other warehouses, no problem at all. Diamond Olive Branch, every single shipment. I mean, it was just impossible to maintain and keep a business going. We're using them as your distributor.
Yeah. Now, I will give a shout out to Lulu, even though they are our most expensive printer that we use. In fact, while I'm sitting here talking to you guys, I'm boxing up the Kickstarter for Mongoose and Meerkat 2. We had them ship both the Mongoose and Meerkat and Atlas of Bad Roads Kickstarters together to save on shipping. It came in 11 boxes, over 200 pieces, not a single damage.
I just got my fall issue of Krasova with Wild Stars Orphan of the Shadow Moons Part 3 in, and they came in great shape. I just got those this week.
You get the hardcovers?
Yeah, got the hardcovers this week.
You brought up Diamond, Michael, and that reminded me that there was another story this week. They've lost another.
Yeah.
In a large one. They've lost Dark Horse.
Well,
larger compared to who they have.
The letter, and some of the other retailers saying he's being snarky about it, and I didn't think he was being snarky at all. He was actually just telling an ugly truth about how Dark Horse is right now. They're only like 1% of the market, and there's another truth that nobody wants to hear about how, hey, it's their own fault because they don't have any kind of age guidelines. And, because you don't know what you have to read the book to tell who it's targeted at. You don't know if this is appropriate for a kid or if this is aimed at older readers. And, every title that they had that, they were publishing before and then went away, like Conan, Star Wars, their sales all increased when they left Dark Horse to go to another publisher who did use age guidelines. So they're damaging themselves by not wanting to cooperate because there's some certain creators like, I don't want any guidelines on my book. That's censorship. No, they're censoring the information people need to not only sell their book, but to buy their book. So it's just insanity, if you ask me. And, the evidence is there. And Dark Horse, they're just like a nothing company. And I tell you what, I treated every comic they ever came in. It must be mature because I don't have time to read every book before I put it out on the shelf. And so I just bagged everyone mature, and it saved me because then when I was doing all that Robert E. Howard chronology, I've talked about this on the show before, all of a sudden I discovered they had a comic that would very clearly be considered X-rated, Conan, Songs of the Dead, where you have a erect penis of a statue that gets broken off. Then Conan wears it around his neck through the whole series. Then it's used
as like a key.
Yeah, exactly. And then Conan uses that to unlock clearly a vagina, to insert the key into to unlock the door, and then later another lock that's shaped like a human head. He inserts it into the mouth. I mean, if I'd gotten in trouble with the police, I couldn't have defended myself, and I guarantee I would have never won public office if I'd been branded as a pornographer.
Sure. Not where you're working. No, definitely not.
There's nothing wrong with Midwestern values. I had somebody say, well, there's nothing wrong with those comics. There's something wrong with your municipality. Like, and I didn't say this, but, I'm thinking, hey, I don't want to live in California. Obviously, guys in California don't want to live here in mid-America. And there's a big schism in values between the East and West Coast and mid-America.
It's almost like that.
But there's a schism.
Yeah. It's almost like that meme that you see from The Simpsons where Principal Skinner's like, is it me? Am I being too overbearing? Am I wrong? And it's like, no, it's the children who are at fault. So it's like, did I write this wrong? No, it's the audience. It's their fault for this not selling.
It's wrong with municipality because they don't want anything that can be considered pornography, by just about anybody's standards, too close to churches or schools. See, that's one thing I did reply back. I said, listen, I knew I was near schools. I knew I was near churches. And I had already decided to not carry X-rated materials in my stores because I wanted young people shopping with me before the ordinances were even made. So when they were passed into laws, that was no problem for me because I'd already made the conscious decision to not carry that material. And, and a lot of retailers around the country have always told me, I don't want kids in my store. Kids are a lot of work. Hey, kids are your future. And, kids who used to shop with me, well, one's the fire chief now here in the municipality where I'm on the city council. Another one is the biggest land developer in the area. I mean, kids are the future. And why would you say, oh, I don't want future readers who will shop with me for the rest of their lives. I don't want to take the time to develop those.
Exactly.
What a industry circling the drain and have thinking like that. So
for viewers who might think that, I was just going to say for viewers that might think that Michael is living in like Puritan Pilgrim times here. It's that way about selling in certain areas. But if you drive from Michael's old store to where Michael meets on Town Hall, you will pass 3 strip clubs. So there are outlets for that kind of thing.
Now, and one of my old stores, which is one of the best locations I think any comic book store in America has ever been. I mean, just like right off the interchange of I-30 and I-40. I mean, you look at a map of Arkansas, every road sprouts from right where my store was at. And directly across the street was the church where the Southern Baptists held their national convention one year. So, yeah, I need to be conscious of how I conducted myself. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you just got to be aware of your community, because ultimately it comes down to the retailer to be part of his community. Not say, oh, well, here's what, I've got this view from this, and everybody needs to change for me. No, you've got to become part of the community. And, if something is important to the community, you recognize it. And, and now I have been in battles on freedom of speech. Because remember, Arkansas tried to change their Arkansas Display Act. Tried to say, if, hey, somebody complains about the content of a book or a cover, retroactively, you broke the law. So I got real active on that. And the bad thing about it is when all this other stuff was going on, when comics really started trying to push the envelope with no guidelines, was the same time they were trying to get that Display Act 858 going here in Arkansas with vague language that the Attorney General said, look, I can't enforce that because there's no guidelines here. It's like, hey, just take down all the speed limits. We'll let you know when you're speeding. And
Exactly.
yeah, so we eventually got it defeated. And, and I wrote an open letter to the legislatures, which I think kind of was like the last word. I was like, okay, well, all right, get ready to close down every Bible bookstore because there's this thing called the Bible. Got a lot of wild and racy things going on in it. Kids won't be allowed.
It does. You got this guy in here who wants to lay this lady, but she's married. But he can send her husband off to war, and he knows he'll get killed. Say, put him on the front line, and then everything's free and clear. And he's the hero of the story.
Yeah, exactly. That's a drop mic moment. Okay, we'll back off, and they just let it wither away, and it went away. So I've been in a battle for free speech. I'm not a censor, and I support the rights of all creators to be able to tell any kind of story they want. Just let me know what it is, so I don't sell the wrong thing to the wrong person. Enable me to be a part of my community where I'm not. Oh, I didn't know that was in there. But hey, that's there's no such thing as ask for forgiveness. You're responsible for your actions, and once you're labeled, I remember what happened to those guys in Tulsa.
Oh yeah, they can't find any kind of work now.
Oh yeah, they lost everything, and they did nothing wrong. They had some X-rated comics in their store, had them in a locked box. Kids found out about it. Hey, let us see them. No, you're too young for that. What made them mad? They go home, complain to the mom. The mom's like, they've got what on the premises? She calls up her friends, who's a prosecuting attorney in an election year, raided the next day. Frank Thorne's Gita Valazar had a cherubs on Christmas cards, it's naked babies. Oh my God, that's child pornography. Headlines, they're child pornographers. That was a bogus charge, but they never shook it. Their wives left them. They got kicked out of their place. They tried to relocate another place. Nobody wants to go to that pornographer's bookstore. And last I heard of those guys, they were selling Amway products door to door where people didn't know the names. Ruined their lives, and they did nothing wrong.
And I couldn't believe because I was living down there. I was an in-person customer with you when this was really kicking off. I couldn't believe the pushback from creators.
Yeah.
Not wanting to tell you what the rating of their stuff was.
Yeah, they said that was censorship. I don't know what I'm going to do until I do it. Like, come on, I've created my own books. You've written stories. Alex knows a lot about creating books. You know what your target audience is. If you don't know what your target audience is till you finish a story, you're just not a very good writer. I'm just going to be blunt and say right on out because
exactly.
And like one thing that we've done as a publisher is we've tried to keep the magazine itself, maybe not necessarily all ages, but definitely PG-13. Like you can give it to your kids if you've read it first. If they're over 13, you can probably read it. But like for some of our stuff, like An Atlas of Bad Roads, definitely not for kids. Mongoose and Meerkat stuff, great for kids, but you just have to be aware. And even if you don't put it on the cover, you want to communicate it with your readership in some way.
Yeah, and I'm going to give you a perfect example about how you can't just switch your content midstream. When I first started in 1982, there was this independent comic. It was like the best-selling independent comic of all time, Elf Quest. Remember that?
I remember that.
Wendy and Richard Penny. I mean, schools were carrying it. Libraries were carrying it. I mean, it was just knocking it out of the park in sales. And then they come up to their penultimate issue. They're going to have the big finale. I think it was going to be 20 issues. And so the next to the last issue, going into the big battle, they said, okay, well, we're going to have pre-battle sex night, and we're all going to do partner swapping. Yeah, that's the reaction it got. You know, like, why? And it was completely a change of tone, and they never recovered from it. They tried to keep the series going after the finale, but they could never, ever get back to the heights that they were. I mean, they had everybody's support. I mean, it was like an all-ages book. It was great. And then they had the mature issue, and they never could get their audience back again. You make one wrong step, and it's going to cost you forever. And that's the whole thing. As a retailer, I'm the guy who's looking at actual jail time if somebody else does something and doesn't tell me, and I sell it and I don't know. That's no excuse.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, there was always the arguments like, you know, well, if I'm writing a book from one issue to the next, you know, they like you said, I may tell a different story in the next issue. I'm like, if you're writing Superman, you are not going to turn in an R-rated issue and even hope to get, hope to get it past editorial. They'd stop it because it's got an audience, a target audience, and you always write to that. So, you know, if you're going to write a miniseries, you know you're going to have a certain scene in it because you've written the whole story before you kicked it off. Daphne Lage was doing her Ego Raven, Heir of the First Unicorn. Great book. It's an anthropomorphic medieval fantasy kind of thing. And, you know, she was asking me, she's like, hey, should I mark this for mature readers? I'm like, well, what's in it mature? She's like, well, nothing until the third issue. I'm like, yes, you should mark it for mature readers if it's going to end up that way.
Right.
And she did. And it's, you know, it's taken off. It's got its audience, but she's not going to be shocking anybody.
And that's the whole thing, too. If they're targeting a mature audience and they're not telling them, they may be missing their audience that way. I mean, you know, there's people who want mature reading. Well, let them know so they'll know to buy your book. I mean, you got to communicate to your fans and your customers. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with truth in advertising and, you know, clear communications and let people know what it is you're buying. You don't go to the grocery store and, hey, look at all these cans of soup. I wonder what's in them. Oh, man, this is worms. Because that's what it is. It's a can of worms. You don't know what it is until after, you know, got the name of the chefs. Here's his assistant cook. What's in it? It's a can of soup. We'll tell you what it is when you open it.
And a lot of people would point back to the, we wouldn't have been able to tell that Spider-Man classic, you know, drug abuse story. I'm like, you know, if we'd had to deal with consistent labeling, I'm like, yeah, but they labeled that issue by virtue of taking the CCA stamp off of it.
Because they wouldn't have burned it. Well, they made it anyway. That was their choice. And, you know, that really, there was nothing wrong with that. And, you know, I think they made the right choice and went ahead and did it. Because they knew that was not going to do anything. It was going to, you know, there's not going to be a big backlash. And of course, we're living in a different world nowadays where you've got, you know, 24/7 connectivity and the internet and all that stuff. And so, you know, things that used to never get noticed now they get noticed.
Yeah. And a lot of the stuff that Marvel was doing late 90s, where, you know, you were like, this really needs to have an age notice on it. Is now like, there's a reason why pretty much every book Marvel publishes T+. Like it doesn't even mean anything anymore.
Yeah, it's the stuff that was all ages is they reprinted. It's T+. Like we'll just put T+ on everything. Right way we're covered. We're not even trying anymore.
Well, in more ways than
one thing I will say about that though too is every parent has a different set of criteria. And that's why I was always an advocate. You know, it wouldn't hurt to say, well, why? Is it language? Because you know, customers come in, you'd have a mother say, I don't care how many naked ladies there are, as long as they don't use any bad language. And you know, then you have the next customer tell you the exact opposite. It's like every parent has a different set of criteria what's important to them.
Well, and that's why the movies rate that way.
Yeah.
If you get your magnifying glass out and look at the MPAA stamp on the back of a DVD or a movie poster, it says rated R, and then in the very fine print, it tells you why. It lists the reasons.
Clear communications help you sell more. Isn't that kind of the point?
Yeah. I had somebody. Go ahead.
I was going to say one of the funny thing is that, you know, in the late days of the code, there were so many books coming out that, you know, they'd slap the code on it without even looking at what's in there. I mean, there are early 80s issues of House of Secrets with full frontal nudity in them that have the CCA on them.
Wow.
80s? I missed those.
Yeah, one of the iVampire stories, the origin of his butler friend, has full frontal vampire nudity, and it's got the CCA
but it was always
on
like
there.
You know, clouds and stuff were in the certain places, but now I'm gonna have to hunt that up because I was a big fan of iVampire and I was a teenager. Probably should have been reading it.
I remember that pushing an envelope. I do remember that part because I was selling them at my store. So
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I remember one person was arguing with me before. They were like, said, books don't get ratings. And I made them angry when I said, yeah, these aren't books, these are comics. Like, you don't understand. It's a different medium. Just because it's printed, it's words and pictures. It's closer to a movie than it is to a book.
and books get in trouble sometimes for the content. I'm not a book banner. I don't believe you should do that. I believe that everyone should be able to tell every story they want to. But there's going to be some people say, I don't want this for my kid, and so they're going to face that too. I mean, it's just going to happen in a different way. But when you show it, when you take the imagination out of the equation, it's like Alfred Hitchcock. The Psycho. He never actually showed that girl getting knifed. He showed the blade. He shows the girl screaming, the curtains, the blood in the water. Your mind filled in the blanks. So you can do things where it's still accessible to a younger audience. Maybe that's pushing a little bit, but still, it didn't actually show anything. And so you can still have content that will go past a kid, but an adult like, wow, hey, I can't believe this is happening. So it just, you recognize it because a lot of times there are things that just fly right over a kid's head. Because me, I believe give kids content, the same kind of content that an adult would read. Don't write down to kids. Kids know they're being written down to. They know when they're being fed pablum, and they don't like the taste of it.
Yeah, I was when I was watching, I watched all the Harry Potter movies because I read all the Harry Potter books, and I enjoyed them at the time. But in like the last Harry Potter movie, there's a scene where the red-haired guy Ron is having this nightmare vision, and it's causing him to have paranoia, and he sees Harry and Hermione, who are now like 17, holding hands naked and looking back at him while they're walking away from him. They're like, I don't remember that in the book. And if it had been in the book, I imagine Scholastic might have done something about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it would be a sharp departure from the tone of the series. Well, the tone got darker as it went along, but it was still a Scholastic book.
Yeah, you set a tone and you don't break that rule. And look what happened to ElfQuest. I mean, they just destroyed their whole had a great product going and just destroyed it.
And it never really came back. I mean, people fondly remember it, but they don't remember the ending because it didn't get that far.
Yeah, the libraries and the schools didn't carry the ending. They're like, yeah, it was good, but we don't have that.
It continues forever in your mind, children. They live forever in your imagination. Yeah, Woody, he did it with a silhouette and a violin shrieking. Just that's all it took.
Mm-hmm.
What else is going on? What's going on this week with past 2 weeks with your customers, Michael? What are you shipping out?
Well, Marvel's doing really strong. I mean, they're putting out a lot of titles. They're putting out monthly titles instead of all these miniseries. I mean, they're still doing a lot of that too, but miniseries just don't sell like a regular title does. And DC's floundering, hardly doing anything. What they're doing is just mostly miniseries. I swear, whenever DC has a production meeting, okay, what new ideas we got? Okay, that don't include Batman, and the room goes silent. It's DC is the Batman comics. It's Detective Comics.
All it is. Yeah. Well, that is their name, isn't it? So
it is.
Would make sense.
So they're just, it's not Batman. We don't make it. I mean, that's almost like what it has become. And they do so little, and what they do just doesn't sell squat. Now I will say, but the exception to that is Flash. Flash sells equal to Batman for me. So yeah, and the independents just plugging along. Of course, there's no money in independents because the shipping charges. Most of those are distributed by Diamond, and Diamond inflates their shipping so outrageously that they any profit margin you got, they're taking it in shipping. So they're just doing that as a customer service.
But it's I've been binging on HBO Max the Justice League and Justice League Unlimited animated shows, and it's really been Batman led for a few decades now, I think, because even those shows, it's centered on Batman bringing them together, and as the last episode played out, when the series was finally done, it was the villains had helped them defeat Darkseid at the end. And they're like, okay, well, it's all over. Let's lock you guys back up. And they're like, we just helped you. And Superman's like, what do you think? And Batman says, 5-minute head start. and so they all run. And then it's, the Justice League's running out. And you get to see everybody in the DC universe. It's like in little batches running down the steps of the Hall of Justice. And then it ends with the final 7, which ends with the Trinity. And then Superman and Wonder Woman go their different directions, and Batman's center screen, and it's just Batman. And it just hit me. It's like, yeah, it's always just been Batman, hasn't it?
It just about has, yeah.
I think ever since the Burton movie.
Batman it was. Before that came out, Batman was a dog title. It didn't sell squat. I mean, there was some talk about maybe them canceling it. I mean, it was doing that poorly. And then I had 40s and 50s comics and 60s comics all over the place, Batman back issues. It just didn't sell. The Burton movie came out. I sold every one of those like within a couple of months. They were gone.
Yeah. People remembered he was there. And they remembered that they not only remembered he was there, they found out, wait, it's not a camp show. It's not,
right.
And
everybody thought it was the Adam West Batman and from the TV show. And Joker comics that were in my 50-cent bin, all of a sudden, everybody snatched those up. They were $15 books overnight. I mean, the Burton movie changed things. And from that point on, Batman has been the flagship of DC Comics.
Makes me wonder what was it about the Burton Batman movie that did this? Did you see a similar surge when they did the Christopher Reeve Superman movie?
Well, I wasn't a retailer back then. That was 77. So that was before.
Okay.
But yeah, and I had great timing because I had decided I'm going to open up a second store. I was in one city and I was like, okay, I'm going to go to the other city across the river. Little Rock's one city, North Little Rock's another. I was in North, so okay, now I'm going to open up a store in Little Rock. And I said, I want to time this out for that new Batman movie. I just got a good feeling about it. Boy, I could not have picked a better time. I mean, like the very first day I opened the door, it was outselling my original store. I mean, it was just, I'd hang a Batman t-shirt up in the window and people would just flock in. I mean, I could buy them. I was meeting trucks at truck stops, not out the back door. I mean, actually out the back door, but it was legal. I mean, they weren't, giving me any kind of stolen merchandise. We're distributors. Okay, this trucker's going to stop for gas at this time. He'll deliver this to you if you can meet him as he drives through. Because I'd be down there 2, 3 o'clock in the morning at a truck stop, and believe me, you don't want to be at a truck stop 2, 3 in the morning. You got all these skanky looking girls knocking on your window like, "Hey, baby, no, I'm just here for delivery." Well, so am I. No,
I'm just here for comic books.
Yeah, exactly. Boy, you get that stuff and you get off there as fast as you can. I mean, you move your car, then they'll follow you again. You're like, that's not what I'm here for. I'm here for legitimate reasons. And 2, 3 in the morning, there ain't nobody doing that. But so I was just doing everything I could to get product and buying cases of T-shirts, and they just sell as fast as I can get them out the door. I mean, so
I was getting T-shirts. I was getting them like J.C. Penney. I mean, they were Batman T-shirts were all over the place, and there were so many designs. I was on my company's bowling league, and it was like 14 weeks long, and I wore a Batman T-shirt every single time, and I never duplicated. And then we moved somewhere and they were in a box behind the couch. And then I looked behind the couch and that box was gone and I never saw them ever again. Which is fine. I couldn't fit in them now anyway, but
they shrink. Yeah, that's what it is.
Oh no, yeah, that's what it was. They shrunk, they were, made out of them bat polymers that didn't like the washing machine much.
Well, that's true too. But I mean, even if you don't wash them, it's them shrinking. We're not getting larger.
No, couldn't possibly do that.
Nah, I can't be.
What else is going on? I've been shipping like crazy lately. It's been fun, and I'm shipping titles that I've not heard of. It's like people are saying, "Hey, I need you to ship my book." I'm like, "Oh, send it here." And I look at them like, I didn't even hear about this campaign. Like I shipped out a boatload of this thing called Mr. Beaver. And look at that cover. I mean, that's the Dark Knight cover, only with this giant beaver police detective. Everybody else is a human being in it. He's just he's like Howard the Duck. In this world. And this is a fun, interesting story. So the indies are really in a renaissance now. And I love the crowdfunding market, but in another way, it's a shame that it's bypassing the retailers. And, if retailers aren't aware that Kickstarter and Indiegogo are carrying these, and that a lot of these have retailer tiers that say, "Hey, we know you're a retailer. If you buy in bulk, here's a retailer friendly price." Then you can set your own price because there's no cover price on these things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just a lot of retailers aren't looking for those tiers to back though, because a lot of retailers, they don't have time to do the research on all these different projects, do their due diligence. And
Because it's not a
crowdfunding
catalog.
does have a really bad reputation for not fulfilling products. So the fact that you're doing fulfillment's cool because people can actually buy the books that they know exist and are out. I mean, right now, like about 2 out of 3 of my outstanding comic Kickstarters that I've backed are extremely late. Actually, I take back 3 because I'm still waiting on that gold foil gold diggers. That's God knows how late.
Yeah, that one's very late. But you know what? There's some, and you don't hear about these. You hear about some of the bigger names or the more current names. Like, hey, this frog book is 2 years late, because that's like what's in the front of everybody's mind. I'm like, yeah, well, this horror book is 7 years late. And this guy is still on Twitter and doing, other books and stuff. And I was like, ain't nobody received his Midnight Harvest. It's and I think somebody else had what was Big Hawaiian Dick. Yeah, I know, but sorry, YouTube, that's the name of the book, and it's about a detective, and he wears a big Hawaiian shirt, and it's in Hawaii.
Yeah, it used to be published by Image. Yeah.
Well, 7 years late on that one. It's not.
At one point, you just sort of have to accept that you're never getting it, and that's sadly the case on a lot of these, which is why I've become really hesitant to back crowdfunds from people who are on their first books.
Yeah.
And even people who are professionals who have experience in the industry. I mean, Sean Gordon Murphy was pretty late on Plot Holes, which, I mean, it ended up being a good book, but it was late. Right now, or several months late on Reggie Byers' relaunch of Shuriken. I have no idea if and when that's ever going to get done.
Rob Liefeld's got a book out
there.
there.
For everybody who decided to include masks as add-ons and stretch goals for their Kickstarters during COVID, because now you're out of pocket for all these tchotchkes you promised that nobody wants or needs.
Exactly, and it's it was largely, and I'm sure there were still amateur exceptions, but it was largely the professionals who created this fear of late book market that's out there now. So that if you are amateur,
the other project that's killing me right now, I don't want to name any names because I'm friends with these guys, but they've been working on this double page spread, sending work in progress updates for it for almost a year now, and surprise, the book is a year late. And it's like, if you got a double page spread that's going to take you a year to do, just ditch the whole thing and put the book out without it.
Yeah, I mean, what is it, George Perez level detail?
Than suffer through a year's worth of updates on the most detailed Hieronymus Bosch style 2-page spread you've ever seen.
You got to stare at that 2-page spread for 3 days to get your money's worth back out.
Yeah, they had to give the backers the 2-page spread as a 2x3 tapestry. For waiting a year on it.
People do sometimes suffer from what I call paralysis by perfection. It's gotta be perfect, at some point it's good enough.
It's like I was excited about this book a year ago. Now I'm just kind of mad that I spent money on advertising in it.
And what do you call that, Michael?
Expiration of expectation.
Yeah, the paralysis one in the IT industry, we call that paralysis by analysis, where we're like, trying to solve the problem perfectly and end up doing nothing.
Yeah. Microsoft knows all about it. So it's buggy. Ship it.
Yeah, exactly. That's fine there. But yeah, we do have since it was brought up, we do have a lot of books that are crowdfund only. And if you're a retailer out there and you'd like to put some in your store because you can't get them anywhere else, DM us on Twitter at Critical Blast, and I'll send you our catalog, because the catalog is growing, and we've got retailer friendly prices on them.
They can get multiple titles in one shipment too, can't they?
Yes, they can. That's the other deal. I can send you Sunrise Blossom, Incontessi, Angels Awakening. I got some Company Men down here. The Company Men is a great book, by the way. This is everything like an original first run Image book used to be, with the team, only better written and drawn, actually.
Image was one of the big problems when the whole direct sale market really started having problems back in the 90s. It was booming, and Image this series isn't selling, we're not even going to finish it. and you don't leave your readers hanging. And that's why Image, I just got to the point where I hardly even carried them on the shelf because you never knew if they were going to finish a story. It makes people angry that they bought all the earlier ones and then they don't complete the story. Yeah, got to complete it.
Well, other than Spawn, all they were selling was X-Men and Hulk over and over again in different wrappers.
Different versions, yeah.
I mean, like Pitt, that's Hulk. Max, that's Hulk. Wildcats, that's X-Men. Team 7, that's X-Force. It's just, it was like they were all trying to audition for the job they left.
Yeah, it really was. All right, well, here's what I was already doing. You're just going to keep on doing it, yeah. Yeah, Image did a lot of damage. I'll tell you one thing. They did this crossover with Valiant. Valiant was kicking it at the time. Then they did this crossover called Deathmate. Well, Valiant got all their books out on time. Image was hugely late on all theirs. And for some reason, it hurt Valiant more than it did Image. And Valiant, they did their books. They got them out there. So it just boomeranged back on them by association.
Yeah, that was PR, good PR on Image's part. Push it offside. I remember seeing in the price guides when Gen 13 was like the hot book, and Deathmate Black first appearance of Gen 13. You can find that in 50-cent bins.
Yeah,
and in bulk.
Yeah, I mean it was the hottest thing there for a while, and then it went away. I mean, it's over my 40 years, I've seen things. A lot of things become hot. I mean, when I first started out. X-Men, the John Byrne X-Men, that was the hottest thing for Marvel. Teen Titans, George Perez, Marv Wolfman, that was the hottest thing from DC. Legion of Superheroes was their top selling. Titans and Legion, they're the hottest selling. Superman, Batman, they were just hanging on. You see things change so much over the years as far as what is hot, what is not. You've seen people just take a good IP and destroy it.
And a lot of indies will stay hot until they end or go away, because you have books where the first few issues were going for $20-$30 back in the 80s. Now they're all just bargain bin titles.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sometimes they can be hard to find bargain bin titles, but they're still like, I think I got that entire run of Red Fox for like $20 on eBay, and that was
that was popular when it was coming out. But
when it was coming out, the first book was going for $20.
Right.
I remember I had
was tardy on the later issues, and that killed its interest. One of the very first catalogs I ordered, one title never actually came out. Redeemer #1 by Joe Kubert. It never was made. So that was like the first book that just complete fallout. And then this was earliest days of the direct sell market.
The thing I always hate is when you know that the next issue's in the can because they have the finished artwork for it, they have the solicit done, and it never comes out.
Yeah,
like that's the way it is for several titles that are really short, but I love. Like Rima Jungle Girl is that way. They've got the solicit for check out her new adventure in issue 8 with this beautiful artwork from Nestor Redondo, and I'm like, there's only 7 issues.
Yeah, I know. So they'll just pull the plug on, like, it's not making enough money. We're not going to print it. But another book that was in that first catalog was Camelot 3000 #1. Brian Bowling art, Mike Barr's story. That was fantastic. That was like the hottest thing. By the time issue 8 came out, #1 was like a $20 book. Then it took like a month for 9 to come out. Then it took another month I think it took like 6 months. It basically kept getting longer and longer. Finally, between 11 and 12, it was an entire year. By the time that number 12 issue finally shipped, that #1 was back to the $1.50 cover price. Nobody cared anymore.
Yeah. So what a lot of these indies who are doing crowdfunds need to understand is you have to keep sustained interest in your titles. You can't do fewer than 1 release of your title a year if you want people to stay interested in that book. Otherwise, people just forget about it, become distracted, and people like IPs that seem like they're big just kind of vanish. Like I've had some friends who had some indie comics that were doing really well and big, and then their artist quit on them and they moved on to some other titles, and there's no buzz about that original title anymore.
Saga used to be a huge seller for Image, and then it would go on to hiatus and tell a storyline, then go on hiatus and come back later and do another storyline, then go on hiatus again. Every time it was less readers.
Yeah, and then there are these other creators who they're they're fairly prolific, but they aren't sticking to one title. So, you know, if you liked one thing they were working on, it's 2-3 years later, you're still waiting for the second issue, even though they've put out like 2 or 3 issues and completely different projects. You're like, well, why should I get into those? Because I don't know when they're ever going to get back to those if they haven't got back to the first one they've done. So I'm not really interested in anything they've got going on because they're not taking the time to focus on one thing to build momentum with it.
Yeah,
and like that's one of the things that I think Mark and Tim have done a really good job with their Common America and Black Ops project.
Absolutely.
Is that they have maintained that consistent momentum. They alternate which titles they're putting out, but they're putting them out on a consistent, regular basis. I think they're doing about 3 releases a year now.
Yeah, Ellis, wasn't that the guy who did Trans Metropolitan?
No, that was the guy who did your Wild Stars cover for 3.
No, I'm not talking about Lim. I'm switching subjects now. I'm trying to remember the name of the guy who did Trans Metropolitan.
Warren Ellis.
Warren Ellis, yeah, that's it.
Warren
It's
Ellis,
like he was the worst about starting new projects before he finished them, and you know, it just you know, it would take forever to get that last issue out, and so you know, every time he started a new project, it'd have less people in it. Of course, he's kind of on the outs in the industry. Everybody's letting all this stuff go to print since he got into that whole scandal about child grooming.
It wasn't even child grooming. It was like he just talked to girls on his website who said, "I'd do anything to get into comics." And
You got to be responsible in your actions.
he did nothing. He did nothing.
I didn't know what the details were. I heard a little bit about it, like, yeah, I don't even want to read about that.
Well, you know, it was time to cancel Warren at that time.
Yeah, but he was the worst about it. I mean, he'd get a series going, everybody would be really interested in it. And I can't even remember half of his titles because nothing on those has sold in years. And
I think Mark Miller does the same thing, or has done the same thing. Mark Millar.
Oh yeah, he does a little bit of the same thing. Yeah,
because everything's like a Netflix pitch. If it doesn't go somewhere, we'll throw it away. We got plenty of others.
But you got to finish up the storylines because otherwise they're just going like, hey, this guy he can't rely on him. He's not going to give me the completion of it. And so you know you damage your brand.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to crowdfunding, somebody who's doing that exceedingly well, and I can't remember the name of his artist, and I know they're a team, so I apologize. Mike Shea, who is the guy behind Miskatonic High, and what they did was they wrote and drew up the first 5 issues, and then crowdfunded the first issue, and they've been putting out a book every 3 months on Indiegogo or on Kickstarter rather. So
that's how you got to do it.
Yeah. Alex gets his books out on time all the time. I mean, every project I've been involved with him, if they don't ship on time, it's because they shipped early.
And you know, you have to pay an artist up front a lot of times to do that. If you're not, you know, if the artist isn't part of the team, with Miskatonic, the artist is part of the team. I know a lot of people say, well, the whole point I'm crowdfunding in the first place is because I don't have the money to pay the artist. I'm like, well, it's not, it doesn't work that way. Not with this. You've got to be able to have something to show people.
Yeah. Of course, now I will say that sometimes you'll have an artist and you haven't paid and the artist just doesn't do the job.
Been there.
Yeah.
I've seen that happen a lot.
About. Yeah.
I've seen people pay the artist up front for everything.
Worst thing you can do.
They show some, you know, some of the artist's work and they're like, oh my God, this artist is great. You got time to do a cover for me? Yeah, sure. I can do a cover for you. Can you do a pinup for me? Yeah. Okay. Guess what? He's doing all covers and pinups. He's not doing comic pages.
Yeah. There's a reason why
people like that.
There's a reason a lot of the publishers are using artists from other countries now. Maybe it's a little bit better work ethic. I don't, they all see the money exchange where American dollar is a lot stronger in other countries than it is in America. So
specifically Southeast Asia is where a lot of the work is going these days.
A lot of Singapore artists, really good.
The new artist on Beyond the Farthest Star online strip that we're going to be using is from Argentina.
Yeah, Argentina, Brazil, Panama. Seeing a lot of work come out of South America. A lot of it come out of Southeast Asia. And these are guys who some of them are on par with Byrne and Perez and Austin. But they couldn't get work in the States because there's just not enough books to put them on. So going indie was the way for them to get discovered.
Yeah. So Alex, the artist who's doing the art illustrations in the for the Orphan Beyond the Orphan of the Shadowy Moons in the current Kursova. Where is he from? Is he American or is he from another country?
Jesse White's from Canada.
Okay, so he is from another country.
Yeah,
But,
technically.
kind of, yeah, not that big a difference in economies there. But he's doing a great job. And
Yeah, and I think the guy who did our cover for the summer issue, Apriati Kuzbiantaro, I think is from the Philippines, and one of our other new regulars, Usanekaran, is, I believe, out of Singapore. He's the one whose cover will be going up for winter if Amazon will ever approve it.
Oh yeah, gosh, what a pain. Hey, another thing we kind of mentioned about my Wall Stars always being in Kosovo, and it's such a big long story. But I do want to mention that it's segmented. I mean, it gives you entry level points just about anywhere you start. It's like the one that's running out, Orphan of the Shadowy Moons. It's an origin of a character, and I think that's a pretty good one for new people to start with. The one that's going to be running next year, when I was pitching it to Alex before I sent it to him, I said, well, this one's kind of like Dirty Harry meets the Wild Stars. And so each one's just like a little bit different story where if you're a new reader, you're going to get a full story. Now, if you read all the other stuff, you're going to see a lot more going on because everything connects, but you still get complete stories that way.
It's almost like the days of the Strand, when the Sherlock Holmes stories were serialized through there, the novels. I don't think a lot of stories are doing it. Even All Story magazine wasn't doing that. They were always, a short story and you're done.
Now, All Story was big in the serials. The ones that were really big on one and dones was Planet Stories and Thrilling Wonder. Especially during wartime, it became sort of a selling point. It's like, look, we know that you boys are overseas, so you don't have to get a whole bunch of different issues to finish the story. We've got all the stories complete in one issue.
Yeah, the old All Story, you're right. They had a lot of serials in that. I was thinking of when I was trying to pitch short stories, it was in the writer's manual in the late 90s and early 2000s. Maybe it wasn't even All Story. It might have been a similarly titled book. I don't know. It's been a long time since I've been in the market to try to push my own stuff. The market has changed. People, you can publish your own things now, and we do. I just don't publish my own stuff. I just publish for other people. Guys, we've passed the top of the hour, so probably a good time to wrap up. Michael, is there anything you want to tell people about what's coming up from you in terms of either Wild Stars and or almost said HP Lovecraft?
If I'll let Alex, do a kind of a comment on if he wants to. One thing I'll comment about is the Robert E. Howard art chronology I'm working on. I'm building it. I'm almost done. Probably this weekend I'll finish building volume 1. And I'm trying, hoping to try to get them all done. Sorry, I'm all congested today. I'm trying to get them all, done so we can get them sent to the printer, get them proofed. And so I'm working away on that. Now, everybody thinks that one's late because when they did the Kickstarter, they had some placeholder information. I was like, hey, you got to get that. That's wrong information. You got to get that down. They said that was going to deliver in February of this year. Well, when I was talking to them before they even did the solicitation, they said, well, when can you get this written? I said, well, I can get it done in 2 years. I can get it done by July 2022. I'm going to push to try to get it done. Maybe if I can do it as early as February of 2022. So that goes up on there as the delivery date for the, finished assembled book. And that was just completely just fantasy land. And the publisher's owned up to it. He said, yeah, that was our mistake. We shouldn't have put that up there. So people think that one's running late when I'm right on schedule. So, I mean, it's going and progressing, and we're going to get it printed. It should be out and released sometime early next year, building the pages.
As long as updates keep going out on the Kickstarter to let people know where you're at, that keeps that keeps the pitchforks and torches at bay.
Right. And they just did a 123-page preview from the volume 1, and the reaction was, it looks fantastic. If this is going to be as good as the Edgar Burroughs 100-year chronology, this is going to be great. And it will be. This may be better. It's certainly going to have a lot more material. This is a monster.
All right. Well, Alex, you've been telling us that the winter issue is coming or will come or is embattled and coming.
The thing is, if people didn't only buy from Amazon, it's going to be out there because we've already got the files uploaded to Lulu for print. And so it will be out there. But the big news is, of course, Wild Stars, Orphan of the Shadowy Moons Part 3 is out now, out in the September issue. Mm-hmm. If you want to get caught up on the whole story, I recommend picking up the spring issue because that's where we started serializing it. We've also got, of course, Wild Stars 5 in the collected edition is available for retail on Amazon. So just look up either Wild Stars 5, or the Atomic Paradigm, and be sure to pick that up. there is a short story in the back of it, which will give you a leg up on the story that we're serializing next year, The Gold Exigency, because the main character of WildStar 7 first appears in this short story that was added as bonus material for WildStars 5. It was originally from Multiversal Scribe, if that's correct. Michael's nodding his head.
Yeah, 1977.
Yeah.
Michael doesn't have anything like a throwaway subplot. If
Yeah.
it's mentioned, it's going to be important somewhere.
Yeah. Misha Burnett's An Atlas of Bad Roads, the Kickstarter just shipped out this week. People are already saying that they've got the book. They've been posting it on Twitter. The retail version will be going online on the 1st. Fortunately, Amazon did approve the digital pre-release of that, so that's good to go. We'll get the physical up there soon too. Mongoose and Meerkat is being boxed right now, so I'm hoping to be able to get that in the mail next week. And once that's in the mail, I will get the Amazon retail information set up so that people who missed the Kickstarter can buy their copy of Mongoose and Meerkat Volume 2.
All right, and people can find more about Michael's work at thewildstars.com. So you can not only get links to buying the Atomic Paradigm and forward, you can go all the way back to the Book of Circles. And
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, I think there was something before then, or maybe not. Maybe Book of Circles is the best place to go.
Well, Book of Circles is the start of the Wild Stars. That's the volume.
Okay.
And that
Pick up
collects
the omnibus. It's the easiest, cheapest way to get caught up. It's got the first 4 volumes and 726 pages. Beautiful hardcover. One of the best books we've ever published.
Beautiful.
A little pricey, but it's worth it. Everybody who's got it says that it's worth it.
5-star rated.
Excellent.
And
all right, guys.
Well, what is it? 15 pounds? I mean, it's lethal weapon. 11
7 pounds. Let's not exaggerate.
Chronology is 15 pounds.
You create bricks.
Yes, I don't do any small projects.
Exactly. All right, guys. Thank you both for coming on the show tonight and talking about comics and publishing and everything that's going on in the industry right now that's current. We will have you guys back. Alex, you're always welcome. So I'm going to say you guys, pop in anytime you want. Another 2 weeks, be on another Friday night. I am going to be gone this Friday night. I will be at Archon in Collinsville. So I will be I'm a professional, so I'm invited to be on panels and stuff, but they will let me sell books at 2 hours during the whole thing. I have a signing and a reading at one time and a signing and a reading at another time. So I just spent a whole bunch of money on books to take.
In 2 weeks and a day, Michael's going to be doing WildStar signings at Retrograde Comics in Little Rock.
Oh, cool.
We want to be 2 weeks from tomorrow?
Yeah, well, that's why I said 2 weeks and a day.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Okay. They said 2 weeks from today.
Yeah.
So there is somebody who stepped in to fill the void where you were.
What's that now?
There is somebody who stepped in to fill the void.
Well, they were around while I was still in business, and so I'm sure they've gotten a lot of the business that did not want to go mail order with me there.
Yeah.
So
because browsing's a thing.
This will be my first time in the comic book store in over 2 years.
You won't recognize it, Michael. It's going to be a new. Yeah, browse, look through stuff.
Yeah.
Ask questions about what's selling and what's not. So you can come back to the next show informed and tell us what's going on in an actual brick and mortar store. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much for being here and participating tonight. We don't have a show without you. And as always, while you were here, we just hope you had a blast. Good night.